Good day and welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. In this video we're going to talk about how you can get into PvP, what you know about PvP, and essentially everything you can get through to kind of start your journey as a PvP player in World of Warcraft. So let's start with the absolute most important thing that you should do before you do absolutely anything in PvP, and that is build. You need to do a PvP adjacent build. Whatever PvE build you are running is not going to work for PvP. It's just not. Basically, it is, not going to work if you are someone that is looking to, play PvP as a player. You're going to need to look at specs, you're going to need to look at talents, and you're going to probably need to follow someone's guide. Whether that is an online YouTuber, whether that is a website, whatever it is, you're going to need to adjust your build. You're going to need to consider switching to DPS. You're going to need to consider whether you are playing Arena. These are all the things you're going to have to do before you can even begin PvP as a journey. And your build and setting yourself up with a viable build, or at least a build that you're comfortable with, is the very first and most important step. So let's talk about a couple of things to consider when you are building your character for PvP. So firstly, racial. I know it sounds tedious, but your character's racial ability actually can have an effect on your performance in PvP. For example, Arcane Torrent is an ability that Blood Elves have that is actually helpful in PvP. Certain races have PvP benefits. They're not game breaking, but if you're someone who's going to be super serious, you have to consider these when you're making your character. Likewise, what are the three main tenets that make a PvP build different to a standard PvE build? Well, there's three main areas in which PvP is structurally very different to PvE. So PvP functions on three main philosophies, whether it's arena, battleground, whatever it is. It's mobility, the ability to escape, move, break CC, get out of CC. It is CC, so the inverse, being able to stun your opponents, silence your opponents, fear your opponents, control your opponent's gameplay to open up avenues for attack. And then it is damage control. So basically, you need to be able to do more damage output than they can. Functionally, PvP builds should be burst DPS, generally speaking, because what's different in PvP comparative to PvE is PvE, you'll cycle through rotations. You're doing a 7-minute fight against a boss, a 4-minute fight, a 5-minute fight. PvP, it can end instantly. With that being said, certain builds are actually really good at ramping up that damage over time and are better in certain scenarios, albeit for situations where you may benefit from having opponents not tracking you. Maybe you have stronger avenues. You in a battleground, you're not being targeted so much, you can hide. There's lots of aspects that you can do. So now that you have your build, your next step is PvP gear. Now this, we'll have to obviously talk about how you truly obtain the top gear here. But PvP gear is different to PvE gear, and we'll talk about obtaining it, upgrading it, etc. But you have to understand that PvP gear functions and benefits players in the PvP environment comparative to PvE. A great example of this is if you come to the PvP vendors that you can find inside of Dornagal. These vendors will sell gear pieces. Now these pieces of gear functionally aid you in the PvP environment. So it's no longer a situation of, I am like playing PvE, I'm going to use the same gear. No, you actively want to use PvP gear, and you can see because the basis of it is it increases your item level to a minimum of 636. This straight off the bat, and we'll talk about tokens, things, different currencies, and that is very important because what it does is, even the green gear, it gives you entry level standard practice into going into PvP. If you don't have PvP gear, you're going to fall behind, because you can see even having a full set of green gear probably nets you out a higher item level than what you're currently using. So it's very, very important. On top of that as well, the trinkets are very important because of their removal of impairing effects. Your class is probably not going to have enough ability to reduce CC. So your starting gear really should be your trinkets. It sounds weird to say, but they are very, very important when it comes to improving your overall performance. And we'll talk more about gear in detail now, but the important thing is that you need to start collecting currency and buying gear, even if it's green. So let's talk about PvP currencies, because this is a very important aspect of PvP. When you are playing PvP, there are three main currencies that you will deal with. Two of them are very persistent across PvP, and the other one is basically tied to world PvP. But essentially, the main one, and the number one most important one, is Conquest points. Conquest points are obtained from pretty much any activity in PvP. You can get them from the world quests, which is a very, very, very important aspect of earning these. You can get them from winning PvP matches, which you can see here. You get them from bonus PvP matches that you can do as well. And you'll get them from pretty much anything. You can see here that by engaging, I get rewards, honor, and conquest. Even losing will net you some, but at a much lower rate. And the same is done for rated PvP, whether that's Battlegrounds, solo, etc, etc. Conquest is capped, so the amount of conquest that you can hold at any given time is capped for the season. So basically you can only earn a certain number of conquest until basically you move up in terms of the passage of time. So PvP is like very, very, very important, and conquest points are the most important because they allow you to buy rated PvP item. In terms of honor points, these allow you to buy entry level PvP items, and then you get a very special currency called bloody tokens. These are earned from playing war mode and doing war mode quests. Getting these allows you to buy specifically war mode based gear, which is kind of a little bit in between. And these currencies are all very important. And the main way to get them, quite frankly and quite easily, is simply by winning matches. Whether that's in quick play, rated, etc. It is pretty much basically from winning matches that you're going to get those currencies. You can also get them from time to time from PvP centric based world quests that might pop up from time to time. And then the only other real way is your weekly world quests, which are an absolutely amazing way of getting conquest, as these only require you to gain honor in Battlegrounds. So it may take you a long time, but you get it from gaining honor, which you get even by just defeating enemies in Battlegrounds. So this makes it very, very easy and straightforward. All of your PvP vendors can be found here in the foregrounds. There's one across the way and there's one here at 5871, and then you can find the others all the way over here at 5674. So remember how I said we would come back to gear, and of course we have come back to gear already, but it's very important. So basically there are four main vendor types that you will experience. Firstly, we have the conquest vendor. This is where you will spend conquest points. This is very simple in that this will give you champion level gear, which is great, but this gear will give you the highest item level increase available in PvP. So 639 gear. Very, very important. You can buy this and essentially it will enable you to grab yourself a ton of item level for PvP. But also, as I mentioned before, in terms of trinkets, it gives you a lot of great abilities. Removing impairing effects, increasing health, etc. Lots of combat based abilities. The next one is honor. This is baseline. You'll get this a lot faster. This will allow you to stop buying your starter set that you'll need for PvP. this you get really quickly. I highly suggest again that you start with your trinkets, especially here. Not so much here, because if you have your trinkets from honor you should be fine, but that's really where you start. And then you have war mode, which is in between. So this pops to 636. It is just below Conquest. It's a little bit different, but it's actually kind of easier to obtain in theory, because one weekly quest can net you a really good item from the war mode vendor. Then we come to competitors' recipes. You would have seen a couple of these available at the other vendors, but these essentially are crafting reagents that allow certain classes to purchase or create PvP-centric items, whether that's PvP-centric crafting items, PvP-centric gear, PvP-centric flasks, PvP-centric recipes. It all is available here. Then, of course, you also have item upgrading. So you can upgrade PvP items using the Conquest points and honor as well. So Conquest and honor are the currencies that are used to upgrade PvP items. These will also use available Valor Stones as well, and will also need crests. So you will need them. There's also some cosmetic vendors that are available, which is great if you're looking to pick up some cosmetics. Those are from medallions, which we'll talk about as well just now. But yeah, basically that, and then you also have war mode supplies, which essentially are little items you can use to help improve your war mode performance, although not something too major. Marks of honor basically can be obtained essentially just from winning matches and getting the various chests. They allow you to buy cosmetic gear. You'll mainly find them in winning a match, popping randomly, and from the glorious contender strong boxes that you get from completing content. So it's pretty straightforward, to be honest with you, and it just makes a lot of sense. So let's talk about PvP. So there are two distinct aspects of PvP. There's random battlegrounds, which are all quick matches, and there's rated PvP. Rated PvP is vital if you are looking at obtaining certain rewards. Okay, so if you are looking to get better gear options from the vendors, you have to actively do rated PvP. Like, rated PvP literally allows you to upgrade and purchase better gear items. On top of that as well, rated PvP is necessary to obtain your mount. So you are not able to grab these mounts without participating in rated PvP. Rated PvP is how you get all of the best PvP rewards, titles, etc. Then we have standard PvP. Standard PvP is way more Zerg type. It is way less communication. It, generally speaking, does not give you nearly the same level of rewards. However, standard PvP is much more generous and friendly when it comes to obtaining your like honor and conquest. It's great for completing your weekly quests. It is great for farming a bit of honor to get going. It is essentially a really good way to start to work your way into the game. And I would honestly suggest people to start with quick match. So when starting quick match, you have a couple options. So firstly, you have random battlegrounds, complete against enemy faction. You have random epic battlegrounds, which are bigger battles. Random arena skirmish, where you'll just be placed into a random team of 2 people or 3 people. And then you have your brawl. Now your brawl, generally speaking, has increased gain, so you want to do your brawl. That's like 9 times out of 10 where you want to kind of begin when it comes to playing PvP. And you can queue up for multiple matches, so it's not like a huge issue. Queuing up for like multiple different arena game modes and everything is more than fine in attempting to obviously score yourself some really good progress. In terms of rated PvP, I wouldn't even consider starting here until you have like at least the very bare minimum a full green set of PvP gear. Without the PvP bonus, without being sitting in that like 636 bracket, without having the trinkets, without having these things that you need to even functionally play PvP, it's not necessarily a good way to start. Like, you can go play it and you're just not going to get anywhere. Most people are going to be sitting with a bare minimum full green gear. Most players are going to be sitting with trinkets. Most players are going to be quite experienced. Rated PvP, I don't suggest, personally, until you have your full green gear. You're welcome to get involved if you are a skilled player, but it is definitely something I would consider avoiding. So let's functionally talk about Arena and how Arena is different to Battlegrounds. Now, Arena combat, whether it's rated or unrated, the substantial difference to Arena comparative to basically like Battlegrounds is in Arena, as a player, your objective is to only eliminate the opposing team. But on top of that, something you have to consider is the fact that essentially in this game mode, class and class juxtaposition, so class versus class, top tier class, second tier class, is far more important. You have less players, there are a much more direct, simple battleground, and so dealing with other players and understanding the mapping of the battleground is crucial. But ultimately, class versus class, rock, paper, scissors to a certain extent, is important. It's not the only way, it doesn't predetermine the victory, but especially if you're doing randoms, then it is 100% very important to basically like taking out and playing this game mode. Like, it is essentially super duper important, and if you don't have like the ability to essentially control or play out your game mode, then you're going to struggle with the concept of PvP. So class matchup, very important. Being able to play out your class, super important. Understanding the opponent's class, very important. Your only objective is to kill. It is functionally a much more stressful and unfortunately a more direct gameplay mechanism. It is one of those situations where Arena, in a lot of situations, can feel very tense for a lot of players. And I think it's probably, especially from a rated aspect, something that's quite unfortunate for players to really get involved in. So yeah, super duper important there. But it is definitely more rock, paper, scissors. Class knowledge is super important, and having a meta class is very important when it comes to Arena. So let's talk about the concept of Battlegrounds, because Battlegrounds are different to Arena. Firstly, Battlegrounds are objective-based gameplay. So whether it's capture the flag, capturing posts, understanding the objectives and playing around the objectives appropriately is always going to be the best way to making progress in the PvP situation. For things like when you are playing in Arena, a lot of it comes down to type matchup. What are my typings? What are my typings that I'm dealing with? Am I able to control those typings? What is my situation when it comes to typings? What am I doing that could be different? How can I control the fight? Here, things are a little bit different. You are obviously trying to control your typings and your class matchups, but you are also, in theory, trying to control the battlefield. And this, and communication with your team, how your team is working together, how you are operating with your team, is very crucial towards understanding what to do. This is especially hard in random battlegrounds because a lot of the times players are not orientated around objectives. So a lot of the times it becomes a bit of chaos. Your team, as you can see, tends to get a little bit lost in the sauce, so to say. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the main thing that you do is understanding those objectives and playing as a team. If you do not play as a team and play around the objectives, you will lose, and you will lose badly. But it's okay as well. It's not the end of the world. A lot of players, they tend to conflict Battlegrounds really badly. It's one of those situations, especially in random, where you can get steamrolled. Ultimately, at the end of the day, just enjoy it and try to coordinate with your team and get yourself some good progress. So how do you effectively farm honor? So obviously outside of rated PvP, especially if you're looking at quick match, looking for enlistment bonuses is very important. It completely helps you with farming honor. But on top of that as well, your glorious contender box that you get for winning your first match of the week and of the day is very important when it comes to farming conquest and honor. Your bonus that you get is bigger, 300 honor, 48 conquest comparative to 80 and 6. So spamming the same game mode, not super effective. Winning a match in each game mode, very effective. And it's just one of those things when it comes to farming your honor that is crucial. Those quests, the world quests, very important. But generally speaking, overall, changing up your game modes, doing your casual gameplay modes, and just spamming it a little bit is going to net you that really good progress that you can make. So let's talk about the lockboxes. The lockboxes change depending on what you do. So you can see I've got the Glorious Contenders lockboxes. These are all great, but the Glorious Contenders lockboxes can contain a lot of things. They can contain items, they can contain recipes, they can contain potions that you can use, they can contain gear, but the gear will be based on the event or the type of matchup that you got the box in. So doing a random battleground, it's not going to net you a super high piece of conquest gear. I mean, there's a chance, but it's not really that high. Whereas doing a rated arena PvP does have a decent chance of getting you there. So now that we've spoken about the benefits or how you can start PvP, get into PvP, something that's super important is the rewards of PvP. So let's talk a little bit about those rewards, starting with obviously title. So PvP is a reputation based thing. It's not something that you are concerned about from the applicability of essentially rep. It is about your actual big energy that you have. Whether you are a high rank, low rank, it's all really part of it. And there's two benefits to this. Firstly, title, which is great, but also along with that comes transmog for your class. So there are transmogs based on your PvP, and you can see it here. And the elite sets are available only from the rankings, and as you can see, they look very cool, depending on your class, of course, but they do look pretty cool across the board, I would say. And these are only available really from obtaining that high rank. You can later buy them on with marks of honor once the season expires, but it's really not the same thing. Obtaining those transmogs is pretty easy. It's all entirely based on your rep. So as you move up your rep, when you get combatant, you'll get cloak. Combatant 2, you'll get the legs and braces. Challenger 1, which is a 1400 ranking, will give you the gloves and boots. The chest and belts at 1600. At 1800, which is rival, you'll get head, shoulders, and helm. At 2100, you'll get a really cool weapon illusion. And then at 2400, you will unlock the rest of your set, which is really cool. So yeah, of course, that's not the only thing. You do have 2 mounts that you can earn. The first mount is the Vicious Sky Flare. This essentially is just based on winning PvP matches while at rating 1000 or higher. Rating 1000 is the entry level in terms of the overall like rankings that you can have, so it's very relatively easy to get to. You need to win quite a few matches there. It's not that big a deal. You should, if you're a PvP like nut, get there quite easily. The next mount is the Silver Armored Fellbat, and this mount is only available via winning matches in 3v3 rated PvP. So this one is very different. You can only earn this one through defeat of strength for PvP, so it's very important that you, or sorry, not defeat of strength, but basically it's this seasonal mount, so you get your custom gladiator mount, and you have to win 50 games as a gladiator rank in 3v3 arenas, so it's really quite intense. And then finally, last but not least, we need to talk about unlocking your PvP weapons. So unlocking your PvP weapons is actually very straightforward. So unlocking your PvP weapons essentially requires you to get to 2500 Conquest on this character during the war within Season 1. This will give you Forged Gladiator weapon tokens, which are very important. And with it you can go to Lalandi here in Donegal, right at the foregrounds in 5575, and you can speak to her, and then you will have the ability to get your Conquest weapons. And these are very important because weapons are obviously a huge source of your damage. Aesthetically they look cool as well, but these are a huge source of your damage, and they are champion track, which means they can go up to being pretty high in item level. They can go up to 613 from PvE aspect, but it's the fact that they can get to 639 in arenas which is crucial. And only when you have the achievement where you'll be able to get your first 2 weapons, you will then be able to buy more later on with Conquest should you wish to replace them from Lalandi. So that is very important. Now obviously it's just 2500 Conquest, so it's actually very straightforward to get and doesn't require you to do much basically. But that is how you can get started with PvP. It's a very daunting grind, I think, for a lot of people. You have to enjoy that aspect of PvP. Like, you have to enjoy playing other players. I highly suggest, if you're someone who enjoys it but gets frustrated with random battlegrounds, try to just do quick match, random battlegrounds, epic battlegrounds, to the point where you have, you know, basically like full green gear, entry level gear, etc. Maybe you'll get enough Conquest that you can get your weapons, and from that point look at going into rated battlegrounds, rated solo, rated arena, because here you tend to have a bit of a better time. There's also PvP discords and things like that which you can definitely join, which I highly suggest, and once you get into it, it's actually really a lot of fun, and I highly suggest you give it a try if you're looking for something new. That's it from me. Bye.